Hello and welcome to episode 24 of the Sackdown. Today we have the man who saved Fnatic single-handedly. Made Fnatic go from a losing organization, brought the winning culture from BDS to Fnatic. We have GrabbZ here himself, head coach of Fnatic. And yeah, we're gonna just jump into the episode and talk about a lot of things with GrabbZ's career. Obviously, like other people that we've had on this show, we've had the predecessor to this show, the Crackdown. We've had GrabbZ on that a couple times, I believe. You also came on Best M League shows. So we're not going to dive into the full history of your career. I feel like there's that content already out there, but you've had an interesting last couple years. So I think the place that I would like to start is the story that we got from Crownie a couple weeks ago. A couple episodes back, he was telling us about the xMatty situation. So the xMatty situation. And pretty much he said that when he was in Korea, and I know you've told your version of this before, but I think maybe there's more context out there now. Crownie's version of the story was that when he was in Korea, he was dominating xMatty like every scrim, like 10 times in a row. He's just winning every single game. And it was to the point where like xMatty was having like a borderline mental breakdown. Like he was just like getting like really emotional. And the team wanted him to play, but coaching staff and other people decided against it. How accurate is the story? What was the relationship between like Crownie and xMatty and that BDS Korean boot camp?
I mean, if that's his version of the story, then maybe he was in a different Korean boot camp. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Players, I mean, especially players, they like to paint their reality differently, right? The way I see it is, I can agree that Crownie maybe was like slightly better, but ultimately in the boot camp, what happened is that Nuclear Int had 80% win rate in scrims. In our shared scrims, whoever had nuke got bot lane roamed and could kill the enemy bot lane. Like I also have still VODs from lanes where Mebdi is 6-0 after 12 minutes, right? So I think the narrative of him dominating Mebdi in the boot camp is overblown. What is true though is that we, as a main team, had losing record against them in scrims before even the boot camp. And like in this context, I can kind of see how his mindset worked. I mean, I could even show you guys privately, but I have the actual decision paper that we wrote for the BDS bosses that's like 4 or 5 pages long about where we went with that roster, because it was basically between the one that we had or Adam, Sheo, Nuke, Crownie, and Limit. And both were like kind of 50-50. And we just went with that configuration and that thing is low-key true. And I'm not sure like why there was so much negativity about it. I mean, I saw all 10 players, and I didn't believe that any configuration would guarantee us a good result. And I even told him in Korea that given his history, because Mebdi is a rookie, Mebdi has more leeway to not have good games. If Crownie would have played, we wouldn't have we win 2 more games on stage. Congratulations, you know? But I even told him I think it's better for his career to stay in BDS, win EMEA Masters, and then maybe come up next year. Of course, as a player, you think like, no, if I would have played LEC, of course he would have won. But also I was tasked of building the organization up in that year, which also means, of course, the academy team has to perform, which was always the like moniker that we had in general, because else I would have sold a lot more. But for example, we had limitations that, Goto afterwards was the main coach of BDS, right? He was my academy coach. Like the idea of putting Adam back down because he had to have like a reality check in terms of effort. Sheo was a little bit rough. And Nuke wanted to play with Synchro, for example, right? So like these decisions also came in. That also I think it's really important to build culture as a head coach. And basically, Crownie was not so much better as to make me bench Mebdi, who was the one who worked the hardest in this team. Mm-hmm. And I mean, Yamato, your head coach, right? If you tell your team that you want to see effort, and then on the first chance you bench the one player who actually puts in the effort every single day, what do you show your players, right? So I discussed it with Crownie multiple times. We were talking like we're fine. But that's one of the decisions. With the same information we had, I would do still 10 out of 10 times. Like I'm very, very confident in that being the right decision in that moment. It worked out for BDS the year after, because Crownie, the top side of Adam Sheo could build up some synergy. And again, Sheo was still rough on that bootcamp. And then they went up next year, right? And they qualified. So good job on that. But yeah, I'm really over this topic. Like if people want to have this narrative that he was smurfing 20-0 each game, sure. But it was basically Nuclear Int who had who could say that compared to Rika, right? But Rika was also like so depressed of mid-lines that he didn't want to play the C. Like, he just came to Korea to give us the 10th player, but he did not want to play the C. He was so traumatized by the experience.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if his experience with SK is actually helping that at all. Maybe he's
maybe
having some therapy. I mean, there's a lot of players that were in this boot camp that had careers after. So I would like to talk to you about some of the players that were in this boot camp and players that you coached here in BDS, because we've had different just different trajectories with a lot of them. So one of them that I'd like to start with, one of my personal favorites is Adam, currently, who got 10th place technically, just because they lost SK, right? So 10th place technically in the LEC. And obviously, there was a lot of stuff around Adam. This offseason, he had a post where he was like, I don't know why no one wants me. Like, what the fuck is going on? I've been like super good in LEC. Why does no one want me? Or like, why is why am I not getting the opportunities that I deserve? Obviously, last year he had the benching in the finals weekend of LEC, which is really shocking to a lot of people, because you could potentially qualify to MSI based on that split, as well as having the points from that split would have put them in a different situation where maybe they end up having an easier path towards qualifying for Worlds. So it's a very important time. And then obviously you just mentioned it here as well that Adam had issues as well. So what is Adam like as a player? How is it to coach Adam? I mean, you coached him a little bit after Yamato, and I would assume he had a little bit more experience. Maybe he's slightly more mature. What do you think about like Adam and how his career has really panned out so far?
Your question after me, before me, Yamato, no? I think.
Yeah. Coach him. I had him when he was a rookie. They took him out of LFL.
Yeah. Actually, he was receptive to feedback. That's also the time we tried to teach him Jason Gangplank. I think at the time, or meta, and I think this is something that he was willing to play. I mean, maybe in hindsight, for myself, just giving him his Gods champions would have made it better. But I think he was really receptive actually to learning stuff. It's just that he had issues about being on time, for example, like these small discipline issues. Example that Crownie, I think you mentioned in here, right, with the comment he made at Worlds, how he speaks to his teammates. That's not the first time he did stuff like this, where, I mean, if you get benched, I think 3 times now, at a certain, if everywhere you go, it stinks, you should check your own shoe, right? I think that's a German saying, not sure if it makes sense in English. But he does have some issues there. At least it did in BDS. But I actually was surprised afterwards that he still had these issues, because I felt like after the mentioning, of course, he really hated me, and I could tell. But a year after, we had a small talk where he said, in hindsight, stands a decision, and he thinks it helped him. So I was like, okay, cool. I mean, happy then, right? So I was kind of surprised he got benched again. So I'm not sure if, especially as a French player, the community can be really kissing your ass 24/7. So it can be that at some point he just can't separate the feedback he gets from fans from the actual things that are happening, which is something that can happen really quickly with players like this, right? And I think that might be an issue. But again, I didn't think it was as bad. And the benching also happened knowing that in BDS was meant as a project. So it wasn't like me discarding him. It was meant as a wake-up call, because we still believed he had talent. So it wasn't as bad, my benching at least, as it might look like. Of course, I can't speak for what happened with Striker, for example, on BDS, right? But yeah, if you think as a player you have so much talent and you're so good individually and you get benched multiple times, then it is very clear that you have other issues, right? And it's not a coincidence anymore, or bad luck.
Yeah. I would like to hear, Yamato, just your perspective as well, because you've obviously told us your stories about him, but it seems like the trajectory has been it's been downward in the last couple of years overall for Adam, and it seems like he's not learning. I mean, from even just seeing what we see publicly with the Zoxy style guy who he's close with, you see all these tweets about, oh, all the rogue players are so shit. Like every week Zoxy style comes out with a tweet. And the context that people miss is this is literally Adam's fucking boy. This is his mod. He's in there all the time. He's the number one Adam fanboy here. So it's it seems very it's oh, you're turning the blind eye. Oh, my biggest fan is just criticizing all my teammates all the time. That's strange, I don't know. It just seems a little bit weird there. So Yamato, what can you tell us about how you perceive Adam at this point?
I think the odd part was it's like in how you shared it too, GrabbZ, is that I always saw hints of like improvement because from my perspective, it's like I worked with him very, very early. I understood it as this is a player that just had so much success in everything that he did that it builds up an ego in a young person, knowing that everything that you do is right, and you kind of build a momentum of ego that needs to be shattered at some point. And I thought this is what happened in BDS when you benched him, because when I work with him, right, it's like I had Whippo, Shaves as a coach who helped Whippo become the player that he is today, and he was very, very unreceptive to any feedback. Like there's this famous story of Whippo and Adam playing 1v1s because Adam made the claim that Set is unplayable into Nocturne top. Then Whippo said, let me show you, like, this is what you need to play. You made a lot of mistakes. And then they played 1v1 and Whippo just solo killed him. And then they played it again and he solo killed him. And still Adam to that point in time said, oh, it doesn't play like this. It's unrealistic. This doesn't mean shit. I'm the top laner, you know? And
I'm the top laner.
Like, oh my God, yeah.
It was that story kind of cemented everything because Whippo was like going insane. And at some point I just... this is where the whole upset thing with like being on a mountain became a thing, because it was like, oh, let's concentrate our energy on things that we can actually change. And like Adam was only there for one split, and then it changed, right? But like that was early on in his career. There was like moments where he would ask me, "Can I travel home?" And then I would say, "No, it's not possible. We have to scrim. Like you cannot leave. There's like peak COVID. There's too much risk. Like I don't want you to get sick. We're going to risk everything." And then he would like tell the manager that he got permission, and he would just disappear, you know. And then there was a time where like a flight like a flight was delayed, didn't come up on time, and I'm like, he just arrives a day later. He's not participating in scrims. I invited him to my house, you know, just to give some gravitas to the situation in terms of like where he's moving forward, but. That was like so early on in his career that I thought there would be like some kind of a progression, especially after your benching, like when you benched Adam, and then like the BDS thing, it started going better in that year. But it just seems like the same mentality seems to be kind of reappearing. But
also that regard, like in BDS, like I think even that's the benching that killed me. Like at that moment, I think I lost my job as well because I mean the owner is a big Adam fan, right? So it also doesn't help if you're a player and you get benched, but then you get all the feedback from above that everything is fine and the coach is wrong. So in the end, like I think it's also at some point you can say he didn't have a chance to. I mean, I don't know how he is now, right? Again, this is all for what I knew from UDS. That maybe he didn't really get a chance to improve on this because he still got the feedback loop of everything is fine, right? Who knows?
Yeah.
Imagine this scenario: you got a new haircut. A new car, maybe. Fresh clothes. Everything looks lovely. You're prepared for the day, filled with challenges that you're going to conquer. Suddenly, weather changes. Maybe some thoughts cross your mind. Suddenly, you begin to sweat. All of a sudden, all these things that you have prepared for this day no longer matter because for some reason, damn, you'll be smelling. Mando, it's got you covered. Whole body deodorant. For any circumstance, you'll always be ready. Feeling nervous because everything changes around you. Maybe there's a new interaction. Maybe you are looking into the eyes of the person that maybe you're in love with and you want to say the right words. The last thing you want to do is smell silly. Mando, whole body deodorant, you can put it in all of the places. If you're taking things to the next step, not only do you smell good when your clothes on, you're going to be smelling good with your clothes off. You can put this stuff on your damn grundle, your damn sack. You can make sure that every aspect, your essence, smells like Mount Fuji, maybe Perban leather. You can be ready for any situation because this stuff lasts for 72 hours. This stuff was created by a doctor who just realized, damn, normal BO is just misdiagnosed and mistreated left and right. This doctor knows what he's talking about. Be ready for any situation. All these products are, of course, baking soda free and paraben free. And it's just proven that it just controls body odor better than just shower soap. So what are you waiting for? Be ready for any situation now with Mando Starter Pack. It's perfect for new customers. Comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, and 2 free products of your choice, like the mini body wash or the deodorant wipes if you're on the go and want to be ready for any situation. Of course, free shipping. A special offer for listeners of the Sackdown, of course. New customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack if you use the code TSD at shopmando.com. That is SHOPMANDO.com. Shop Mando, please support our show and tell them that we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe to Grundle and everywhere else with, of course, Mando. Thank you, Mando.
I mean, it's pretty interesting to hear about your time in BDS, because when you signed, I mean, what you're telling us now is like, yeah, this was supposed to be a multi-year project, and this is the first year that BDS was actually in the LEC, right? Yeah. Did you lose trust in the whole idea of like multi-year projects? Because I feel like, you know, because you were in G2 for so long, maybe you thought that like coaching was a more permanent thing, but then you come into BDS, you're like, yeah, this is like a team, you know, there's a lot of like, you know, newer players on this team. Synchroff hadn't been in the LEC in forever. Adam is essentially still a rookie at this point. You know, obviously xMatty was a rookie, etc. Did you still believe Nuclear Int is pretty much a rookie at this point too, I might as well add. So did you like lose the like did you believe in the 2-year project thing? Were you like married to it for a while? When did you realize that like 2-year project is kind of like a fake term here?
I don't think it's a fake term. I just think that the entire organization was such a clusterfuck being new, including myself, right? I'm never gonna like not take responsibility for it. The head coach is also a big part of it. But there is a reason why Nuke is the only person left in the project from that year. From management to coaching staff to players, Nuke is the only person remaining. Which will tell you what, like, things also behind the scenes between coaching staff and management. There was, like, war 24/7 stuff that happened there where, like, people are still a non grata for me. Like, I'm not going to work with them ever again. And they probably think the same of me, right? I'm also aware that stories are being spread for certain peoples. And it was just, like, one person openly trying to play politics changed his profile picture to Littlefinger from Game of Thrones. While doing that, trying to be smart. And
nice.
Like, there are things happening that, like, of course, as a head coach, I became, in summer, I think I openly became low-key depressed about what's happening. And that's something as a head coach you should never be. Like, because I think the players came in, they saw me, and they knew, like, I had abandoned basically the idea of this 5-man being good. Which is my fault, right? This is unacceptable, shouldn't happen, and I think that's also why I got fired afterwards, rightfully, if I show this mood.
If it makes you feel any better, I also abandoned the idea of them being good very early on. So, but
there was so much stuff going on, like, as an example, just to show, like, I think communication just broke down. So as a head coach, of course, if you make meetings, if you make black and white statements, they have to be correct, right? It's really important, or you lose faith of your players. So we are summer, like after Korean bootcamp, week 2. I have been told by a person organization, the players are afraid of talking to you. They are scared. And like, I can see it. I have resting bitch face. I'm German. I look mad all the time. At that point, I was still hopeful, right? So, okay, thanks for information. I sit the 5 players down. I make like this entire like 50-minute speech about how we're in this together. And even though I don't, like, I'm not a happy-go-lucky guy, I want them to improve and I want this team to be good, right? And afterwards, they all look at me like I'm a stranger, and they tell me like, "What are you talking about? Like, we're fine with you." Like, cool, great. Like, I've been told like how everything is burning and they're afraid of whatever, and then like, no, everything is fine, bro. So I just made myself a clown for no reason, right? And I'm like, okay, cool. And that's basically
did you confront the person afterwards? Like, what was the resolution to this? It's like, hey, the players, like, did you think that like these players were telling you the truth? Like, what was the like?
No, I think Littlefinger just won at that point. I think Littlefinger made his point, and it was okay. No, there were many meetings. I can ask Duff, he still has it. I think we made like a 20-page paper to higher management about what he thinks is going wrong. Because Duff and me still believed in doing this for 2 years and like building the organization up from the ground. Like even the initial roster in spring, my mindset was, I'm not going to win with this roster. I want to find 1 or 2 good players of these 5 that will keep for year 2. That was the idea. That's also you can check the drafts. Like I drafted, for example, for Mati and Limit as well Karma, which, I mean, they're both not mechanical gods. So it's a really hard bot lane. But the entire weeks I tried to teach them that you don't need Ornn and Nautilus to win a game, because that's the EAL mindset. They come up and they learn, play on 2 lanes, pick engage, and if enemy team has 4 mid lane, go on them and kill them. That's how you win EU Masters, still to this day. That's also by people like Rika and Genax. I think them as players, they could function in the C, but they have to really learn the game. It's a different level. It's a different beast. But that's how to learn the game, right? And I try to get away from that. So I personally didn't care about winning games, which, of course, in hindsight, they are still human beings and they care for their career. So even though as a coach, I believed like, oh, I have 2 years, I don't really care. They were stressing out, right? Which was my mistake. I didn't have enough empathy in that moment to realize that maybe it's good to just cheese 1 or 2 wins so the players get the playoffs and they can say, oh, cool. Right? That's 100% my mistake. But that was basically the idea of the 2-year mindset. But I think after this talks and again, management and coaching staff was not playable. It was actually just really the enemy within, basically. Content team was unhappy because of reasons like everything was just bad in the organization. And again, I'm a big part of this. I will never say I'm not. And there's a reason why everybody afterwards got kicked in a way, besides Nuclear.
Mm-hmm. Did it change your perception when it comes to like working with rookies in general? Because you're somebody who's had a lot of success with veterans, and then when you get this lineup at Fnatic, I mean, you're getting lineups of players that have like, they're very like established in what they want to do. So you can kind of like be the person that bridges all like the big personalities and tries to find the through line, as opposed to like trying to teach players that don't know the game, like, basic things, about how to lane and stuff like that. Did it change like where you thought your strengths individually lied?
Not really. It just changed my base perception of what players do in terms of effort. I was, I think, very naive after Forest in G2 what players actually do to become good. Because, for example, it took me until end of spring to realize, because the scrim room was like separated from the coaching room, right? So like before scrims, after scrims, I didn't actually could see what they're doing. They do not watch LCK APL on their own whatsoever. The only games they watched was on Thursdays when LFL played K-Corp, because they're operating K-Corp. And this was something that it sounds really simple and easy, right? But my brain couldn't fathom that as a pro player, you do not watch the best players play by your own. For me, it was a given, because, I mean, to be fair, in G2, like 4 years, this is what happened. I didn't have to go behind perks and tell him, watch him play, because that's what he wants to do, right?
I mean, I don't know. I have a different perspective. I feel like if you don't want to do that naturally, I just don't respect you. It's like, I don't know why you wouldn't. Like, why would you not be excited and want to do that?
Yeah,
like, there's no reason. Like, I've never met good players that actually don't want to do that on their own. So, like, for me, that would be like just a red flag where it's like, what the fuck are you even doing in this? Like you don't want to like draw inspiration from the best.
Yeah.
Like, why would you never want to draw inspiration from the best? So, like, for me, I wouldn't make that connection either. I just don't see why you wouldn't. Like, what, did they have reasoning, or were they like what was the idea?
A direct quote of a player after being confronted about this was, "I didn't know we can do this." That's a quote of the player after being confronted about not watching VODs. So again, I shouldn't, but that's also a reason why at some point in summer I was just like mentally dead, like, because that's the mentality they had. And like, I'm really well aware I am not good at motivating people. I'm not. I'm good at, if you have motivation, I can tell you how to work efficiently and use that, right? But the only motivation I can give you is the typical German thing of fucking do your job and getting angry at you, which doesn't work with every player. Doesn't work with people like Nuclear, for example. Nuke is like, I like Nuke and I'm happy that he's doing well, because, I mean, this guy has talent, and he was like in the Korean bootcamp. We told BDS he is the franchise player, so I'm happy this kind of worked out. Like, he was the best player in that bootcamp and he's doing well, but he's sensitive. So this type of motivating him doesn't help him, right? He shuts down, and which is something I could reflect on. I think now I would be better. But if I don't have this base level of effort they want to put in, then I as a coach also struggle a lot. And this is something that happened in BDS. Because my only reaction to them saying, like, I didn't know they can watch VODs, was what you're talking about. Like, I had no empathy for that, right? I was just like,
I mean, I don't know. I would just think the player is retarded at that point. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, I would just be like, are you just fucking stupid? Like, I just, to me, I can't even like deal with that. Like, what does that mean? He doesn't know, like, you can, like, he didn't know where to find the games. Like, I would have to, I would really need to be explained to, like, what does it mean that you don't know you can watch LPL and LCK?
Like, in the beginning, the only time they watched this is because at some point, because people were like 2 minutes late, 3 minutes late, you know, they play with the timer basically. Yamato knows this probably as well. That if you tell a player be at 11, he's like 11-2, I'm at 11, you know. I made like a wheel and I wrote like punishments in there, and sometimes it was like bring water for the entire team the entire day, or sometimes do a bot review for LCK IPL. And I'm convinced these were the only times they actually watched these two regions in spring at least.
I've had, you know, in my experience as well, is there's players that watch highlights, they like skim through VODs, they don't do it the right way, you know, which is something that people need to, like, some players need to learn. It's like they need to be like educated on. It's like we mentioned Adam. There's like this famous video of like us having like the group draws.
Yeah.
And
who's Jahu?
Who is Jahu?
That gave me so many diseases hearing this, to be honest.
That was such a rough one, you know.
After this recording, because I tell the story, but I never showed someone, I can show you because I made the homework about in BDS and I taught the player, each of you take one champion we're not playing that you think we should play and make a presentation why, right? An example, again, Matti, I think, had 25 pages. He watched 3 LCK games, 3 LPL games. He explained what he wants on draft. He explained how he wants to play the first 3 waves, what support he needs. Like, he did that, right? And a different player, I will show you afterwards, just to have proof, is he had 3 pages. The first one was a splasher of the champion and the name. The second one, why, has good ult. And the third one was, what do I need? Not blind pick it. a week-long homework, by the way, for an LEC player. And that was the result. So, and again, like this, I want to make this 100% clear, right? This is also partly my fault because the head coach makes the culture. So apparently I didn't make the culture correct in that moment, right? I take responsibility for that. But that's also the level of effort I expected, which I didn't get. And I still believe in rookies. I still believe in long-term projects. It just has to be built in a different way, which also means, for example, in G2, not everything went smoothly with management, especially the higher up you go in G2, the more it's tank. I think you guys know who I mean. But I could still work. But now after BDS, like I'm very, very direct and clear in what people I want to be surrounded with, which also includes management, and it includes the chef and includes the cleaner. Like, I'm not taking any chances there anymore after BDS, right? Because all of this snowballs. If one person's in the room that doesn't want to win or doesn't put in the effort, it makes everything harder. And I wasn't as strict on that in BDS, and that backfired.
What would you say then? Because your off season, like post BDS, it was a long one. What would you say, like, would be like the main lessons, like through the painful experience, and what were you like actively like looking for before the Fnatic situation came through? Because there was also like this whole rambling about you potentially joining Fnatic. There was like there was a conversation about me, you guys, and then in the end they went for Freeze number 2, Mr. Nightshare. what can you tell us in terms of what you were looking for in the off season?
You mean in terms of like how I looked at myself, or what I looked for in terms of project?
Basically, how you look at it yourself and what you looked for in a project as well. If you could like summarize how you would apply your experience.
To make it like sum it up quickly, it's just work on my empathy, or just how I work with these human beings. In terms of you always define yourself how empathetic you are and how far you can understand something, right? And how far you accept, like you would change something, but also to just really think it through. Okay, if you work with that same player again, what different angles can you take? What can you do preemptively? Which I think I did also a bad job in BDS. Which I did now a lot in Fnatic, where like everything is going fine, guys. Let's prepare for the fact we will lose a 0-5 scrim block at some point. What do we do then, right? What do I want to see of the team then? Be proactive, be preemptive, and take players more on board earlier. And again, making sure that I lay the foundation that, first of all, they have to understand that their teammates are fundamentally different human beings than they are, and that I also understand that. And I keep myself accountable in that regard. Very, very easy example without going too in-depth, and Yamato knows this as well. Let's say a person like Upset from my team talks directly like I would. Like, no bullshit, direct. Some players are a bit more sensitive. They're a bit more on the bush. They don't want conflict. So, for example, someone picks a champion and asks, why do you pick this champion? Do you think it's actually good? And you know his cadence, right? How he speaks.
Yep.
A sensitive player might feel attacked, but Upset actually just is asking. That is just asking information, like, why do you think it's good? It's a completely harmless question. So it's really important to, even small things like this, right, to make sure everybody understands that Upset talks like this. He doesn't mean any harm in this. And that the other player also understands that we as coaching staff give him the room to then explain as well, right? And small stuff like this, in BDS didn't work really. And which is also, again, my mistake. And so basically, I just worked on making sure that I have my vision of how a team should function, not even gameplay-wise, just I understand these are human beings who are not grounded in reality in a way. Like, they have never worked a normal job before. They haven't gone through, like, hardships you normally go from 18 to 25, right? They don't have these experiences. So instead of fighting it or being negative about it, accept it as a head coach and make room or, like, build a structure around these facts, basically. And this is something that I designed in my head, at least the last year. And I hope it works. I mean, so far, sure, we 8-1 in LEC, best of ones. I don't care, really. I don't think it says anything. I think we're a good team in the LEC. I think we still have a lot to learn to, like, not get shit stomped in first stand if we qualify. I think if we go there currently, we're going to get, like, absolutely stumped. But yeah, it's working day by day and getting there.
I wanted to ask you about Javier. Like, as always, he's the scapegoat in the Fnatic community often. I personally think if there's something to credit him for is that in terms of, like, off seasons, like when I was there, we managed to get Humanoid, even though at the time was maybe too much money for it, and managed to get the G2 player out as well. Wunder at the time was contracted and managing to get that out, and then there was the whole Advien for Trimby deal. Like, in terms of, like, acquiring players and building very competitive rosters, Javier has done a pretty good job for Fnatic. There was announced that he stepped down from his GM position, but is still within the org. What can you tell us about his position and his impact on the roster and your conversations with him?
The conversation has been pleasant. I mean, that's also why I'm here, right? He cares deeply about the organization. He has a good idea about how to run the business. And I think this is something the org itself, the balance can be hard. And I have a 1-year contract, so I'm going to be careful about how I phrase it, right? But Fnatic is, like, way more corporate than other orgs, which also means you have a lot of influence. And I'm not talking about Dardo here, right? But Dardo also has bosses and people above them that give their opinion that not necessarily that I don't care about, right? If people are very removed, then they should not interfere in the daily business. And I think that's always the issue where he had to give his head for that, basically, because he was the management side. And I don't always think that he was the actor, but he was the representation of Fnatic, right? Basically, that's why he always got the flag for it. But from my side, like, again, he cares deeply about it. And I think, for example, the corporate sides also have a good thing because, for example, I'm really bad at documentation. And he also helped me this year to improve the process of documenting stuff and writing something down and making sure that me and GrabbZ follow up on things that we said, which is something that also had issues with in the past where, I mean, you know it also, right? You have 10 issues, you talk about all 10 solutions, but then you forget 5 of them because the next day there's 10 more new issues. So that process helped me out there as well. And now he moved up, like he will still be the one dealing with all the contracts, the signings of Fnatic. He will just be less involved in the daily business, which, I mean, I don't know how he is in daily business because he stepped out before, but I'm happy with it because the less people in management or above that talk to me, the happier I am from experiences that I had. But I can't tell you if it would have been good or not. I don't know idea. It's just me and GrabbZ working for now. And of course, we report up, but we don't really get much feedback or being told what to do.
Okay. I can also share my day-to-day experience. Like the 2 years I was in Fnatic were very tumultuous. Right, we had there was like COVID times, and then we had like the whole situation at the World Championship, of course. And I think the way you described it fits very well. That there was such a big separation. There was like two teams almost, in a sense. It's like I am the same way that I would really, really not like input from parties that haven't taken the time to actually involve themselves.
Yeah.
If a person comes to me, like there was this famous Vitality story that I've not famous, but the story, I was in Vitality, we had issues, and back in 2019 we were underperforming, and I didn't receive like the help that I wanted from the org, because I wanted like a fitness coach and so forth to make sure that the boys take care of health. And then they sent over someone from corporate, so to speak, and he came in and said that the issue is that the desks that the players are playing on is just too cluttered, and that's why we are underperforming. And at the time, it's like my players.
I would beat him with the desk in that moment. Actually,
my players heard them. I heard this conversation, and I just started ripping into him. Like I just flamed the shit out of him, because I knew the players heard this shit. You know, I knew I had to take this opportunity. I seized it, because if that somehow, you know, like I had to stand up for them, right? And I think in Fnatic, in essence, it was like, oh, we're doing good, everything is great. Oh, we lose this weekend. Oh, then we have to do individual meetings. We have to fix everything, change everything. And I'm like, guys, let's calm down. Like we have a process in place. You trusted me with this, and I think it was often that it's like if things went wrong within the team aesthetically or like from outside, they needed someone to point fingers on, and I felt often in Fnatic I was this person, and I think Javier was the bearer of bad news towards me. I think that's why it's like the exit sometimes for a lot of players and coaches can be painful. But I wanted to follow up GrabbZ, because something that I was very happy about, because it warmed my heart. There was I don't know if it was one of the shows with Dom, but or Thorin. Maybe it was the Best Damn League show, but you pointed out that like you pointed out to me like that me making this roster work with this group of players and us making to the World Championship is miracle work. And I wanted to hear your thoughts surrounding that now, like in the aftermath. Now you're working with the majority of the same players, right? Yeah. It's like you have Upset, Razork, and Humanoid. How do you reflect on this commentary, and what do you think about it now?
Yeah, I still think it's true. I'm also really well aware that these three players are not the same that you had, right? I'm aware, and they also will say it themselves that they matured a lot. So I got the finished product now, basically, so I will not take credit for anything of it. And I still believe that back in the day, you had a bunch of egos that are hard to manage. I mean, which also goes back, and this is something, to be fair, I'm not going to pretend it didn't annoy me. It did annoy me after G2, the whole like facilitator spiel that I have to go through. Like it is not an easy part of the job. As a head coach, this is the main part you're doing to make sure that everybody feels valued. Like that's just in every sport how it goes. Of course, there's the tactical aspect of it. But just being a facilitator, if you have really good big egos, it's not easy. So I was impressed by the work you did there. And I'm surprised from the things that I heard, and of course we can't speak about it, that you didn't go crazy at some point. Maybe the mountain exercise actually helps a lot, and I should learn from it. And no, but so far, like I'm also aware that this can change, but I'm really happy with the players. It's pretty easy. Of course, they still have their egos. Of course, they still have their, how do I say it, PR correctly. There are moments where they branch out a bit too far and become a bit too narrow-minded, let's just say. But then they're quite easy to rein in again, I would say.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you know this, but during Yamato's time in Fnatic, when Razork was going through it, Yamato moved in with Razork. Would you be willing to move in with one of your players?
Hell no. I mean, if they ask me because they have, let's say, issues at home or like actually real life issues, yes, I think so. Just because I mean I'm not that much older than them, but I would say that I'm a lot more mature, so I can help them with that. I would, like, let's say 1 or 2 weeks and just help them through it. But
what about 6 months? What about 6 months?
Fucking Christ, no. I can't handle it. I mean, I'm also a person, being around people tires me out. So I'm also really happy after each scrim day to just go home and just not talk to players anymore. Like even in gaming houses, I always made sure that I was not part of that. So maybe Yamato is more sociable than I am, but for me that would be horror.
You know, it's funny because in terms of like your own reflection, what I have realized myself too is that I need to be more harsh, because like on my end, it's like the opposite of what you have gone through. Is that I too many times I was overly too sympathetic and just really letting things happen, because there's like a commitment to 5 players and there's an underlying risk when you try to like break things down. Yeah. But that 2022 roster was pretty much the epitome of just trying to hold everything together and making concessions you don't want to do, but you believe them to be right because you are focused like on the short term. Because we were like one game away from like elimination perma, but I always kept in the back of my mind, it's like I should have probably like broken everything down in hopes of things being better earlier on. But there were so many things that were going through that I will never probably be able to share because they're too personal. But it's always like that conversation you have within your mind. It's like, do you make a concession that you will have to pay for long, like later down the line, or are you going to just break it down now and and see where it lands? You know,
exactly.
It's tricky.
It's a coin flip, right? Yeah.
It's very, very tricky.
Because also like the part of breaking something down, it's a one-time play you have as a coach in a team. You have one chance of, if something goes wrong and you want to blow it up, you can blow it up one time. Because every time afterwards, it loses the effect, right? So it's like a Hail Mary, basically. I get that.
Yeah.
Like the Korean bootcamp in BDS was my Hail Mary, basically, right? Where I said, okay, burn it all down, we have to go. Didn't work out in the end, for me personally at least, but for the org, I think they had good learnings. But
I wanted to ask a little bit more about you and Duffman, because you guys have been a combo. I mean, you guys were a combo for a long time. I mean, people know that Duffman is, your analyst. He was like your right-hand man. A lot of time people have heard about the Duffman level 1s and stuff that he has done. But can you explain a little bit more about like why you like Duffman so much, all the value that he's provided? Because this guy has insane track record.
No, Duff was by far the best in his field for what he does. It's just that, first of all, like he was the more empathetic side to me, the good cop, bad cop spiel, basically, right? He is used to be like the teddy bear in the room, basically. I think after BDS and Cloud9, he changed a bit and became Dark Duff. It's the meme right now we have in the circle. He could become a bit more cocky and a bit more outspoken, which I appreciate because he has the quality to do so. Basically, to make it easy digestible for fans, is that first of all, he codes stuff himself in Google Docs. So, for example, if I want to start, especially back then, like right now, every team has like a data center in a way. But back then, he was the first to do it correctly. Even to a degree that when in G2 we looked for like help or analyst, they used his sheets that he made 3 years ago because he, of course, helped other teams out and gave them away. And then people came with his sheets and said, "Oh, look what I'm doing." And that was like, looks oddly familiar, like might have been mine from 3 years ago. So many people that are in the scene, they might be standing on the shoulders of him, or what he did early with like the tools he provides. And also he's someone that if he focuses on one aspect of the game, he will be gone for like a week and he will be the expert. Like he will be able to tell you every single time what should be done, what the Koreans do, what the Chinese do. He, for example, shaped when I was in G2 still. The biggest impact as example is that he in 2019 when we played T1 at MSI already. Back then he already realized, okay, their Drake setup, like we can't learn this in a week. Every time we will go to a Drake, we will lose, but they also are so rigid that they make sure that Khan will always move, no matter what. Khan will be in this spot 1 minute before, 3 seconds before, which means if we make the decision early, Wanda will get 2 or 3 waves every single time more, eventually a tower. And that became our strategy for the series, basically, to realize they will give up resources they don't have to, because back then Korea was very by the book, right? And we get leads that way and play accordingly and try to win that way. Then level 1's Duffman was one big part of how we saw Herald being played as a bottom objective in the Reckless roster. Like Duff made sure the players realized, okay, this is if tempo looks like this in bot lane at minute whatever, this is what it means for the game. G2 said last year the whole mid game spiel, right? That it's Duff's thing because Duff saw that they were horrible mid game in the Worlds, and he focuses on that aspect and then becomes really good at it. And just the teams that the players that way. So he's like an all-purpose weapon. Understand? And it's hard to find like a label for him. Analyst was just something that we threw back in the day, but he was always like an assistant coach we do nowadays. Like he understands the game really well. He understands stats really well. He can code. He is very like empathetic to players, which is really helpful for people like Caps and Mikyx, for example. When I was the one that was a bit harsher, that he could like translate what I wanted to those two in the beginning. The only fault I see in him, this is something I told him many times, is that he's just too shy sometimes with his opinion. Like, for example, it took some time to make him say his own points. Like, he gave me points in review, like, okay, GrabbZ, this is what in this moment, this is what you should say. I'm like, do it yourself, brother. Like, it's your work, right? And it took some time for him to do it. But now, like, from what I see on Twitter as well, like, this guy became really cocky, which is good. He deserves it. And yeah, I will, everybody who wants to hear it, I will say the gospel of Duffman. I think this guy is insane.
Interesting.
So as somebody that wants to compete, it's very important that you utilize every edge possible. In order to play, you need to stimulate and use all your senses to your advantage. And hearing is, of course, a crucial one. For those long gaming sessions, it's very important to be comfortable. Make sure that if you're using wireless, that battery life lasts. Well, luckily, all of these things, I'm telling you, Turtle Beach has got you covered. I'm currently using the Gen 3 Stealth 700 headset that just picks up all of the crystal clear sound. You hear steps or Sion is ulting you. It is pretty much, you are in the game pretty much. Even if there's noise outside in your house or, your neighbor is shouting for some damn reason, you're going to be all right. Turtle Beach headsets got you covered. 80 hours of battery life is absolutely crazy, considering there is also fast charge if for any reason you kind of just forget to charge. Most of the time you're going to be okay anyway, because these last for 80 hours. I'm always very wary when it comes to new tech, and I'm very, very slow with adapting to the new thing, but wireless is just the way. And sometimes you might ask yourself, Yamato, it is annoying to connect the headset to that thing and then to the other thing. This headset has 2 USB dongles. It's very, very easy to switch to that one, to this one. You can use it with multiple devices at the same time. If you have like a conference call, if you're listening to music, or you're playing PlayStation, or you are having a chat with your significant other, but you want to multitask and play League at the same time, no worries at all. This headset, for me personally, I have a big ass head, so the comfort is super, super important. Most of the times, these headsets kind of just claw into my ears and they kind of press my head together like a watermelon. No problems with this one at all. So the question is now, what the hell are you waiting for? Get yourself a Turtle Beach headset. I need to add as well, of course, that they have all of the gaming accessories that you could ever want. It's not only headsets. There's mice and there's, of course, keyboards, and you can use our code to just, get a discount on all of this fancy, fancy stuff. So level up your game, get some Turtle Beach stuff, grab your Turtle Beach Gen 3 Stealth 700 headset and level up your gaming experience. Head to turtlebeach.com and use code TSD for 10% off your entire order. That's 10% off your entire order at turtlebeach.com with promo code TSD. Thank you very much, Turtle Beach, for sponsoring the Sackdown. Get your headset now. What are you waiting for?
It's always funny to hear like the coaches that have their their guy, because I hear the same thing from Yamato a lot of the time. Like with Shaves, for example, he's like, "Oh, Shaves is like everywhere I go, I gotta have Shaves, man. Shaves is like the guy that I need on the job. Like he's gonna help me with all this other type of stuff." So
yeah, and Dylan probably will say with Rodrigo now. Like we all find our part. I mean, to be fair, I'm also really happy with GrabbZ. He does a great job. I'm of course, like we talked a bit before, but I didn't really know what to expect. But he kinda is like me 6 years ago. He's the same age, the same passion, the same. Now in hindsight, I look at myself and I'm like, okay, brother, like some things you could have said differently. Like you don't have to be so passionate all the time. So sometimes I have to calm him down, which is really funny.
I like what passionate means nowadays, because like you hear like, streamers just blow up on stream, just say crazy shit. It's like, I'm sorry guys, I'm just so passionate. So whenever I hear passionate, it's just like it's become a little bit of like a meme in my own head. It's like passionate.
No.
What does that mean? Does passionate mean that he said that like the bot lane has cancer here, or like what is like passionate?
No,
mean?
no. It's not about the wording. It's more about how you show your disappointment, basically. Like if players were playing shit, I made sure they saw in my face that I know they're playing shit and I think they're playing shit. And they should feel the embarrassment. Basically, that's the way I would say it. I think wording. I don't believe in swearing and stuff like this. Is just if you can't control yourself, if you're 20 years plus. I mean, like I'm also where you guys are entertainers to a degree. That's why I don't think it's that bad. But I mean, if I still see pro players who are playing ERL or LEC, and when I see them stream and they can't control their emotions towards their solo queue teammates, I'm like, bro, like, are you still 12 in your head or what?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, hey, to be fair, I'm reformed. I haven't got like chat restricted in like 7-8 years or something at this point. Like we're chilling, all right. So
I mean, I still see reactions sometimes on pro player, like to what players do, which rightfully so. The players are really bad, but I mean, you're an entertainer again. Like I don't think it's the same thing. Yeah. But yep.
I would phrase it differently if it was to the players directly.
Probably we would speak very differently. Yeah.
It was funny to see like the Riot like behavior checks, and the majority of people that were in the LEC were just like coaches. It was like, I think like the whole KC coaching staff got like warnings for high toxicity in solo queue. I don't know if it's just a playground for them to get it out of the system, because
it's also experience, right? I think as a coach, if you're young and you have 2 years experience, let's say, and you know the game, and a solo queue guy tells you something different, I can understand that then you're hot-headed, But I mean, you're both like in the scene for like all 3 of us for 10 plus years at this point. So I think at that point you should really be able to control your emotions.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that's like honestly one of the main things that made climbing in the game easier for me is just like you just have to be overly tolerant, bro. You actually have to be just on a mountain. Just don't type. Just fucking play the fucking game, and like bad shit's gonna happen, and then like the enemy team will do bad shit, and it's just that you have to really just be very accepting of like what you're doing. Honestly, it's a lot of
only control what you can control. Like anything else is not up to you. So I get mad about it.
It's a lot of like when players come to me for advice with teams, like a lot of players will kind of use me to like vent a lot of the time about like problems in their team, and like, or they even show me like scrims and stuff and be like, oh, it's like what's happening, like isn't this really fucking bad? And like a lot of times it's similar type of feedback that I give them, that it's like you really just need to be focused on like every small thing. And I think a lot of times people kind of get into this coping stage as a pro player where every mistake that they make, it's like, well, that's not the main reason we're losing. And it's like, yeah, right now, I mean, that's not the main reason. Like it could be in the future. So I think that's just the general way you have to approach these types of things.
Yeah, and I think like what in Fnatic right now I'm saying a lot, because again, right now everything is dandy, everything is fine, right? So now it's easy to make structures so when it's not going well. It's basically just ownership, right, of your own actions. Of course, you can be mad that your teammate is low energy and shuts up in scrims, but you could also be the person that realizes that and talks about it and confronts them, right? Take ownership on responsibility about what's happening in the team. And so far, I think it helps a lot, because, of course, as a head coach, you're there to make these things, but it's also an easy excuse for players to be like, not my job, right? But quality of practice is everybody's issue. It starts with players, ends with me. Everybody has to make the right steps. Everybody has to be willing to give the extra step. And I think that's just a mindset that, again, players come from solo queue from home. They never learned this stuff, right? And I think Yamato as a coach, you know it yourself, you can instantly realize which player played team sports in the youth. You instantly 100%. Realize, after talking to them after 10 minutes, Yeah.
Piglet played no team sports. I'll tell you that right now. I'll tell you that for free. 0 team sports. That guy was playing tennis. He was playing chess. He was playing solo sports only. That's for.
Did you play team sports? No?
Yes, sir. Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you don't think I played team sports?
GrabbZ surprised.
No. While asking, I realized that the way you talk to people in league, actually, I talk the same way. Also, like in team sports, you can like be more aggressive because you actually confront them personally. No, it's fine. Actually.
Yeah. I mean, I played everything as a kid, but my main sport was baseball. Like I played a decent amount of baseball, which I guess is a more isolated team sport. But you do have to like, just grow up like around people. But yeah, I mean, I played a good mix. I mean, when I was growing up, I was playing we call it soccer. Like I pretty much just would play whenever my friends would play. But yeah, I played soccer. I played goalie because I was somebody who was like taller at the time. So I played like goalie when I played soccer.
So you were shit, I mean. That's usually how it
pretty
goes.
much. I had no ball, like, because I grew up, I was like a baseball player, right? So like I had like good eye-hand coordination, stuff like that.
Oh,
but,
fair
like,
enough, actually.
My best sports were like baseball, tennis, like that's what I played. So what I was just really on the soccer team because my friends were on the soccer team, and I was like, okay, I could play, and like I was like pretty athletic at the time, so I could like actually jump and get to the upper 90s, which was different. But yeah, I mean, I was pretty shit at soccer though. Like I had no ball skills. Like I could barely, like I was to the point where like I couldn't even really goal kick. Like my goal kicks were like pathetic, bro. Like I couldn't do that at all. Like I don't know, like it just didn't make sense to me, bro. Like it just didn't make sense. Like it was really sad.
You played too, no GrabbZ. You're a football man. You're a football man.
I played many years, which is funny because I talk about aggression and controlling yourself, but I was the enforcer of my team, if you will.
You were a defender, no? You look like a defender. Like you.
It's called the 6, which is like in front of the defense.
Okay.
And basically, I was the one that if someone acted up of the enemy team, the coach would be like number 17, and I would go over there for 5 minutes and then make sure that he doesn't do it again.
Nice.
I was a very aggressive player,
yeah. And I remember growing up like playing football because there was like only one referee, and like you just could only afford one referee, like on a 11-man playing field. It's like the smaller size, not the big full size. And bro, you could get away with some crazy shit, you know? It's like...
Oh, do you know this one?
Yes.
You know this one?
Of course.
Don't do you know?
What, you just hit them with that, right?
Yeah, like in corner kicks, you put your hand like this, and you can stab the ribs with your thumb, basically, to create space, and the ref doesn't see it because he just sees the hand. So it's like, do this all the time. It hurts a lot, actually. It hurts like a motherfucker.
The shirt pulls, the foot stomping. It was like, bro, it was a martial art.
I played. It's called Landesliga, like Germany's federations, right? So basically, I played the Federation League, like Lower Saxony. So we traveled like 3-4 hours to games, far away from pro, like not even close, but still like relatively high. And I was the only one, I think, who played with steel clads. Actually, everybody else is plastic.
Damn. Oh,
so
like the cleats.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they make a very distinctive sound on stone, of course. So when you walk to the field, you could just tell the other, like opposing team looked at me like, "Who is this guy?" Like, hello.
Like, you're bringing back my trauma, bro.
If we had a derby, for example, I mean, I was dirty. I'm not gonna pretend I'm not. So they're like this. The red field in tennis also. They play on clay. I think it's called, right?
Yeah, I played on clay.
So
that was my main service.
If we had a game where I knew the enemy team was also playing dirty, I made sure to warm up on the clay because the stones sharpen the cleats a bit.
Jeez,
so it hurts a bit more.
Interesting.
At least that's what my dad told me to do.
Like because the whole thing about clay as a tennis player is because it's clay, you can slide. Whereas like if you're playing on hard court, you can't slide. So like a lot of the ways you like go into shots is like
maybe it's hard court. And I can Google how it's called. This Asche in German. It's like ash. It's called.
No, I mean the clay is like the softer surface when you're playing tennis. Like so.
No, it's actually like little stones. What I meant, like Ascheplatz,
like gravel almost or something.
Yeah, gravel is what I played on often.
I guess it's called gravel. Yeah, gravel field. Yeah, gravel field, Tinder pitch, play court, everything kind of goes. But yeah, it was like kind of small. Basically, you wouldn't want to make a slide tackle on that field because it would rip your skin open. That's the field. I mean, I did it anyways, but I was also a masochist in that moment. People who know me, they know that also I was a different person when playing football. Like my personality switches completely.
Perfect. I like it. I like
so
the.
I guess I shouldn't be too cocky about saying like control your personality because I couldn't when I played football. So.
You know, I wanted to follow up on what we talked about before because I believe this is a story that I shared, but I worked with a performance coach like that I really, really like. His name is Fabian, not the guy who is like the sports psych guy. It just happens to have the same name Fab. Upset also knows him. We worked with him in Fnatic, and
talk about him.
He also like came from sports, right? And I think a very, very big thing in connection to what we talked about before in terms of like if players make it or not, it's just like their own individual resilience. Like you go through so many things that can be random in terms of what is given to you in terms of like the opportunity. And I've shared the story many times, like of Niski coming in on a scrim day and saying, "Man, my Starbucks coffee, man, the person who made it, bro, it's so shit today. It's gonna be a grief day." just today is gonna be a grief day. It was a long time ago. Niski is of course a more mature man, but I remember this particular one. And at the time, I remember Fabian. He just said point blank to Razork at the time, because Razork was also someone at the time when I worked with him, because he just came from Misfits, right? And he had this environment where basically it was just a gaming house and everyone's together, you have people next to you, and then moving to an office with individuals that like to be a lot more individual. So it was a little bit more challenging, a lot of new things. But Fabian just did a very German thing and just said, I have never seen people in competitive sports succeed with this type of a personality. He just said it like point blank, because he believes in this idea of like resilience. And Razork is very different now. Like we had him on Sackdown, and he mentioned it like that. What really hardened him was like the times in Fnatic when they had like the Adrian reckless thing, and they had with Rocks and so far. I'm mentioning
he needed to suffer, man. That's what we've been saying.
He needed to suffer.
Yeah. Do you believe in suffering? Just as a side here. Like, do you think players need to suffer in order to be like good players?
Suffering is the big part of human existence, no? I think in general, not even players. So I do believe in that, yeah.
Okay, nice. Yamato, continue. Good.
No, what I wanted to get at in terms of how you guys approach like the preparation for the season. Basically, like you have a very like veteran roster, but the preseason, how did you like set things up? How was your preparation for all of these things that require a resilience at the core to deal with? Because you mentioned you need to be preemptive in your work.
Yeah.
How was the Fnatic like off season?
I think the most important part is to tell them that they're all TikTok brained, and real life is not TikTok. You cannot work and expect instant gratification, which I think is a big issue with pro players. Like they see a play, they want to repeat it. It doesn't work the first time, they abandon it basically. And to make sure that what practicing actually means is repetition. So I basically told them, if let's say we talk about reg setups and they don't do it, I don't get mad after the game because they hurt me personally. Like Fabian will be fine. He doesn't care. But it's like you're robbing yourself of a repetition. And we don't have that many. So you have to value them because that's how you grow as a person. And we don't have a performance coach. And I'm aware that I'm not qualified to speak on these topics. But for example, I can still tell them that that's how the brain works, right? The more you repeat something, the more your synapses in your brain form the connection. That's just something that is scientifically given. It is a fact. And I don't need to study for that. And just remind them, okay, this is how it works. It will feel awful. Like even this week, we had shit scrims. We went 1-4 against Vitality, 1-4 against, I shouldn't even say the teams, but Vitality played well. So I think it's good for them to get it out, right? We had shit scrims, but also we had like a day where we did VOD reviews. Trauma from BDS. I made sure we had a VOD review day, where players had to watch, like they could choose what they want. We have like a watch list where we prepare like basically every game, and they can just put in, okay, I watch this, so the teammate don't do it. And we try to emulate certain aspects that we saw in Korea. And then afterwards, the games were shit. And I made sure that they understand, and again, they know it, but they have to be reminded that this is natural. If you learn something new, you're gonna be shit, right? We can either play to scrim win and go 5-0 and not learn anything, or we can go through the suffering of having a shit scrim day, feeling bad, but at least improving. And some of the things we actually did on stage this week. So I think now players have to, again, realize that this is not, even though we're living in the social media world and you get 10,000 likes instantly from people that you shouldn't really care about because you don't know them on a personal level. It doesn't mean you're a great person. That means it is hard work. It is boring work. But that is basically what makes you better in the end. And I think the entire preseason was basically just instilling this mindset through different means in the players.
Yeah.
Which is also why we didn't pick Z. Like, for example, like I got so actually this triggered me from many fans.
Yeah,
I understand, but let's be like really factual for a second. The org has not won in 7 years. I don't have a game to waste on stage. After we win a split, go for it, I don't care. Then fans can, like in G2, they can hold the signs. I can have fun, pick the champion, who cares? But as long as we don't win, there's no fun. It just work.
Makes sense. Oh, it sounds. Man, you are so German. Like every time I talk to you, I'm like, you are just super German.
What do you mean?
just in general, your cadence and everything. You're like one of the most German people I know. It just is what it is.
I mean, honestly, like
not a bad thing. Like,
I'm 30 now. I know that you're more ancient than I am, but
yeah,
I just stopped giving a shit, about like what people think. I just like I've been hired to do my job. I will do it in the best way I think I do. And if people have fun following me or not, I don't really care. Like,
yeah.
And in the end, if we don't win and we didn't have fun, then sure, I should lose my job, and that's just the reality of it, right? And then I will take it on the chin.
Yeah, nice. And then you'll just be 2 years, 2 years of alcoholism again. Perfect, excellent.
Actually, new resolution: I didn't drink a single drop of alcohol yet this year. Like, as a German, and I've beer in the fridge, of course. I'm German, right? But I didn't touch it.
Wow. Oh, you're a different man. You're a different man.
Hey, everybody. It's me, Monte Cristo. I'd like to thank Dom and Yamato for bringing me on for the first time ever for an interview on the Sackdown. What's that, Dom and Yamato? You're asking, is Mint Mobile a good deal? Of course, it's a great deal. Now, you guys like me have probably seen your wireless bills go up and up and up and up over the years. Well, now there's an excellent alternative that will keep you from overpaying wireless bills, bogus fees, quote, free, unquote, perks that actually cost more in the long run, and you can switch to Mint Mobile. So, Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless plans starting at $15 a month. They all come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone, bring it along, and just switch it out. You can have your phone number along with all your existing contacts, of course, so it will be a frictionless experience. If you like your money, Mint Mobile is for you. Shop plans at mintmobile.com/sackdown. That's mintmobile.com/sackdown. Upfront payment of $45 for a 3-month 5GB plan required, which is the equivalent of $15 per month. New customer offer for first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. You guys can get that 3 months of premium wireless service from Mint Mobile for just $15 a month. It is an excellent value. And of course, you guys can just go ahead and use all those wireless networks that are proliferating in the cafes and everything that you go to. Save on your wireless by being smart with Mint Mobile. Now, back to Dom and Yamato.
I was gonna ask you, GrabbZ, what it's like working with Mikyx now. Have you seen like any like differences with him? I mean, obviously you didn't work with him for a few years now, actually. So, how is he compared to how he used to be? Because I know there was times where, even when you were talking about him before, you said he was like, more of a like emotional player. He was not as talkative. Is he still the same type of player? Is he a lot different? It seems like he is being sorely missed by G2 right now from watching the game. So I assume that he is doing some level of shot calling or more talking, etc. What have you seen from him?
I wouldn't necessarily say he does shot calling. I think he's still focusing a lot on his mechanics. Of course, if he sees the play, he's going to call for it. I think it's more that he's still a very person that doesn't want conflict, but is more willing to call bullshit, which was lacking in G2 at least. Back then when I was a coach, that him and Caps are like both players who didn't really influence the mood. They got influenced, but it also didn't do anything to change it. Mikyx still can't actively change the mood himself, but at least he will call others out if they become too stubborn, let's say, right? He can be reviewed like, guys, you guys give me all the sickness right now, shut up. And this is something I never did before. And I mean, this is really important that everybody can step in, right? Again, it's a responsibility of everybody that practice goes well. And he takes the role more serious. He also stands up for himself more in terms of what he wants to play. Like in the past, for example, he would say like, I think Team was good here. And then Perks would say, no, I think Alistar. Okay, sure, Alistar. And now, not every time, but sometimes after it's like, no, you should pick this here. Mikyx like, nope, it looks a champion. Which is, again, something he didn't do in the past. And I think this is really good. So he became more self-aware and secure in his views of the game. And that's beneficial to everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, I was very hopeful personally about the upset Mikyx pairing because it kind of just reminded me a little bit of like old Hillsong, like before Hillsong was like bad for most of the games and he used to be like good the majority of the games. I felt like that's how Mickey is, you know, like Mickey's gonna like make shit happen. I feel like upset really likes playing with supports that are like you know willing to do shit, and then he can just like you know focus on what he does best, just like following up and CSing and you know make sure that he's strong in the game, etc. So.
Not that both very aggressive for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you.
Oh, Yamato, you can go.
I just wanted to hear more because you mentioned also like as a follow-up in terms of the players, you mentioned like that Humanoid was very like pleasantly surprising, of course, in terms of his effort he puts into his like individual game and so forth. What were some other like surprises to you that were like largely positive? Because obviously it's like coming into a roster that has so much history, its baggage in some shape or form. You kind of make your perception of it, of course, in a way, but you figure it out through individual conversation. What are some other surprises you've seen with the roster so far?
One good thing, not a surprise, is that the top side still calls each other out constantly. Because usually what happens is they become a clique a bit and they try to focus more on the bot side, right? But they call each other out on the bullshit a lot, which I like. Surprising in a negative way is also certain concepts, of course, I can't talk about because it would show like how we think about the game, that I thought a top team, at least in Europe, should know. Haven't been there or not to the degree that I thought I would find. So that was really shocking. But I learned really quickly, so it's fine. And I mean, this is something Yamato can speak to, but I did not think that Upset is this fucking funny. Upset is hilarious, by the way.
He's funny on co-streams. Like I'll tell you that. Like he's always the guy. I mean, put Upset and Gillies in a call. It's like hilarious.
When the camera's off, he's 10 times even funnier. Like this guy is so. It is a good mix of good humor and just sometimes you just think to yourself like this guy is just so stupid, but it's always funny. Like there are multiple games in scrims where, and again, Gax like kind of like me, like he gets also very frustrated very easily, and we're both sitting there hating our team, basically looking for the belts already. And Upset says something so stupid that we're both like angry, but we can't contain the laughter. Like we're both just like really mad, but like fuck, like I don't want to laugh right now. And this happens constantly. Like this is really surprising to me. I don't know. Like of course I did talk to Upset sometimes, like because he was close to like Perks in G2, and like, but I wouldn't even call it like having contact with him. And I did not think that he would be this funny. It is crazy.
Absolutely, is fucking hilarious. I can confirm this. It's like sometimes it's not safe for work, but it's like
for sure. That is still the case.
I think that's just like something that's stuck around in like pro teams. It's just it's just what it is. You know, something that is always heavily discussed because like Razork and Humanoid have played together now for what is it like? This is the 4th year. It's like always. It's like when Fnatic is doing good, it's like Mid-Jungle Synergy. They are playing well. When they're doing bad, it's always pointing fingers at these guys. In terms of how they work together, you mentioned that they still call each other out. What more can you share about the Razork Humanoid dynamic?
They have a lot of respect on a personal level, but they just had or still have not a great synergy in game together. They still very often have like different ideas of how to play the game, like how fast we should play. Which is funny, right? Because they always talk about mid-jungle synergy, blah blah blah. But there's still a lot of work to do. But yeah, like they just interact normally with each other. I wouldn't even like Humanoid is a very calm person. Razork is, I mean, if you know Razork, he talks permanently. He talks and talks and talks and talks. And basically, at some point in the review, it's just that Humanoid says, "No, you're wrong," and Razork's like, "Okay." And like Razork has so much deep respect on Humanoid's opinion that like I think a quote of him is like, "Yeah, I know 80% of the time when Humanoid says something, he's right. So we just shut up. If Humanoid says this is wrong, then he'll be like, oh, okay." And then this is how they move on basically. And this is also the thing I think of Humanoid, that because there's also this disconnect between everybody who knows him says he's so giga smart about the game, and the fans being like, then why does he do his mistakes on side lane, right? Which is of course also down to like knowledge of fans, that in certain macro aspects they just don't know about like what wave you should play on, and if the jungler's not there, then you die as a side laner. But also that Humanoid is just a quiet person, right? He's not the cocky, I will tell you how to play type. He plays his game, and we're trying to like get it out of him basically a bit more, that he can share his opinion, because he's of course not always right. And you can tell that he doesn't like not being right. And then he becomes very stubborn. But I think they're both like, because we focused away from them both and their synergy, what they should do together, and we focused more on about what the game tells you to do, if that makes sense. Because the waves, they spawn in the same cadence, right? So the game kind of tells you where you should be if you want pressure on the map. And by focusing on that and agreeing on that, they are both playing together better because they both see the same thing in game, basically, instead of just focusing B around Humanoid for no reason, basically, right? Of course, still we do mistakes there, but I think it's getting better.
Interesting. I wanted to ask you about the big controversy we're having right now, because you said, "Oh, you don't want."
Scrims?
Yep, there it is. There it is. That's exactly what I wanted to ask you about, because you're like, "Oh, I don't want to give away how we think," but apparently there's no downside to giving away how you think and just streaming all your private practice out there publicly. So, what are your ideas on a coach? Because you've never streamed Scrims, so what the hell, man? Like, why weren't you streaming Scrims with G2 in 2019 when you're trying to win Worlds? Like, what's wrong with you? Because streaming Scrims is obviously the best thing that you can do as a competitor.
If you have the opinion of that makes the region better, shut the fuck up. Like, just be honest. You do it for content. You want fans. I can get it. Like, it's good to build your brand. It's important, especially League in an A is not doing that great. I get it, but don't give me that bullshit of you making the region better, because like, you both watch every League game. There are, I think, 20 games a week of the best teams in the world. Watch those. Why the fuck would I watch a scrim game between Cloud9 and FlyQuest when I can watch Energy play on stage? And if you're not able to like reverse engineer the thought process by watching them play, and you need a streamer to explain the thought process, then get the fuck out of the league, man. Then what are you doing here? Like, don't give me that entire spiel of it makes our opponents better and then we have better practice. No, that's not how it goes. If that would be the case, the team that gets stomped by FlyQuest last year would have watched those scrim games they have and improved from that. They don't need a streamer. So let's just be honest about it. Let's just say they want to have the part of the pie of the parasocial viewers who like really care about this, because there's also a reason in sport it's not being done. Like, fans who are fans of the game, they don't care about practice. The only fans who care are the ones who want a personal relationship with the streamer, which is also the reason why Lohmann is doing well, because the streamers were big before. It's not like they have suddenly more viewers, right? It is novelty. That's why they have still the good numbers. I predict that, for example, K-Roll says himself, right? He's not doing content. He's watching the scrims like a coach would. The numbers will go down at some point because the viewers in the stream want to interact with him. The less he interacts with the viewers, the less will watch. It will not save anything. It will attract some viewers, and it's good for these viewers to build relationship to the org, yes, but that's the only benefit.
Yeah,
and I think
it's a content thing. For sure.
And I think it's a huge detriment, especially, I'm not sure if they're going to show voice comms, right? If they don't, then the point is void.
They're supposed to do voice comms.
And that is the biggest, like, the locker room is holy in every sport. It is the most holy place. There was like the idea in football that they have a camera in the locker room, and sometimes they still have. But there was huge backlash on players because in practice, you also should be encouraged to make mistakes. But now you will have 1,000 Andys who have no idea of the thought process, who then will go to your teammate's stream and be like, your top laner's inting you. He's so dog shit. Right? You will have not the ability like Upset, as we just said. Upset is funny. Like, Upset is the person most likely to lift the mood up if you play like a shit game. If we are streaming this, he will have in his mind, I can speak freely. Because, I mean, that's humor. Humor is not always woke or PR correct, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what humor is. Humor is just there to make fun of the situation. And he will have to think about, oh shit, I can't say this. We are sponsored by Red Bull. We can't even talk about other like drink brands, technically. So you're taking focus away. So again, just say how it is. You want fans to care about you, and this is a way to do it. Sure, I buy it. Don't give me that fucking bullshit about makes the region better. That's not the case. If it would, then I don't know. Then again, maybe they're all BDSs and they don't watch SEK appeal. But maybe, maybe they have to watch their own region play. I don't know. But no, this just triggers me so much. Like, I get all kinds of.
I agree with you.
I had the same take, and it wasn't that popular. So I wonder if when you say it as an active coach, it'll become more popular, or people will say the same thing. Because the main thing that I hate about it is when people talk about it. I mentioned this on another show that I did, like actually right before this, is when viewers say like, "Oh, well, you're LCS, you're LEC, you're not going to win Worlds anyway, so you might as well do this." It's like, if that's the mentality of the players should quit their jobs, right? Like they should all just instantly quit their jobs if they think that, oh, there's no chance of winning, so we might as well just be a content region. Like it just doesn't make sense. Like that should never be coming from the players. So yeah, I think that it's not really well thought through. And then the other problem that I have is that the only reason why people are bandwagoning it right now, and also strategically, I think the only reason that Bwipo is saying it right now is because they're actually like the best team in NA on paper. I mean, they did just lose to Cloud9. The second that he released his like prios and said he wanted to stream scrims, they instantly lost to Cloud9.
If my player shows his prios like this, I will strangle him. On site, by the way.
Because he did get permission from his coaches, though, which is
and then they all should be strangled. Like, I don't know.
I made the point that Bwipo just wore them out. He just like he had like a 3-hour presentation. Just do what you want, bro. Like,
if he's lying a bit, I respect it. Then it's fine. If you like switches something up to give a curveball, I'm all down. But it's really important that fans realize is that Bwipo shares his priorities. Okay, but if you stream the scrims, there is priorities in terms of like different lanes. Let's just assume, like I can talk about the picks that we see on stage, right? Cassante, Skarner, Corki, let's say Varus, Rel. Europe, for example, the top 5, the most OPs in a row. Everybody knows they're OP, but that doesn't mean you know in what order the enemy team would pick them. There's a big difference to know, if you pick this champ, if you don't pick this champion, they will prefer the other two over it, so we don't lose access to it.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing it right now, right? Like before, people were like, "Oh, we have to ban Kalista in Europe," and then people were like, "Wait, in Europe, people don't play like the same Kalista lanes that they play in Asia. In Asia, it's like Kalista Nico, Kalista Rel, or Kalista Renata, and then in Europe they play Kalista Rel, and it's like, wait, Kalista Rel just doesn't even feel like OP. We can just give Kalista now." So yeah, I mean, I think that there you definitely see how things change over time, and it doesn't really make sense to leak that part of it. So yeah, I 100% agree. But yeah, you could continue with your point about the priorities.
Yeah, and it's a big part of drafting, right? And also, for example, how often do you think on blue side 2-3, if we mismatch both positions, which one are they going to counter? Let's say if they pick AD jungle and you pick top mid, for example, right? Even knowing which champ they prefer to counter pick gives you huge like advantage in draft to like just know the thought process, because you always. Like, of course, you begin drafting in a vacuum, but then you think, okay, how would they behave? And Yamato knows this himself, and even your player, the biggest headache is a disagreement about, no, I think they would behave this way, and the other team, no, I think they would behave this way. This is really bad for us. Here we win the draft.
Yep.
And that's the thing you don't know. But if they stream a lot and they talk, like, either they throw the entire draft the entire week, which players hate, by the way. Players hate having we're trying something draft. Normally, right? So players will be unhappy, or you're just showing everything. And also, by the way, I just realized also they're just streaming like one block now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you think it makes the region better, why don't you commit to it? Why not? Why make compromises now? If you think black and white that makes the region better, then stream everything, no?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they just say that like it'll make that one block a week won't hurt, because then you can essentially just like you're not going to be giving away too much, and then you'll still have time to like find like your specialty picks. But it's like it also seems very weird to practice like one like half scrim, because normally you're scrimming for some type of purpose. I mean, it's different for C9 because they're already qualified, so this week they're scrimming but they don't actually play. But for FlyQuest, they play this week, right? So normally when you're going into a week of prep, you are going to be like thinking about, okay, like instantly you know their opponent already. Like this is going to determine whether their split ends like in this best of 3 or goes on. They're going to be like drafting specifically for like what this opponent is. That's normally how the prep is going to work. It's like, okay, can we give this potentially OP champion to them? How does that look? Like, how do our counter picks look into that? And now it's like, are you going to do that in that scrim block, or are you just going to have like a scrim block that's super standard where it's like, okay, red side's just going to ban like, fucking Skarner, Kalista, X, and blue side's going to ban like either like Cassante and Bess or whatever, and then you're just going to like draft from there. You're just going to have a mega standard draft. So I just feel like it doesn't really help with your prep. And Yeah, I mean, I think that imagine FlyQuest loses. They do this. Oh, we're gonna stream scrims. We're gonna release our priorities, and then instantly they lose to Cloud9, and then they lose to Dignitas. I think they play.
Yeah.
Like, what's the reaction then? Because the reaction shouldn't change if the information is actually good, right? Like, we shouldn't be just super results oriented. If it's a good idea, we should be interacting with the idea itself.
Yes.
And it seems like what always ends up happening is that people just are super results oriented. Oh, Wibbo's like on the number one team, they're doing it, so it's a good idea. Oh, never mind, they lost. Never mind, it's a fucking horrible idea.
Yeah.
That's how the community perceives it, which is something that I really hate. Like the hindsight results oriented thinking in the league community, because I just feel like logically it just makes no sense.
Yeah.
Just to add as well, I think it's like always people make comparisons about what it was season 1 and 2 and 3. Like season 1 and 2 primarily, right? Because things got a lot more serious in season 3, because that's when the leagues came into the picture and people like started adding like coaches and whatever to the teams. It's like the own TV days and like the team solo middays or COG streaming everything. It's like the whole idea of why it was successful was because it was completely like uncensored and completely just raw. It worked that way because it was just the genesis of league, and you could get away with so much more. You know, it's like there was also the fact that the structure in terms of how you were competing was different. It's like you played tournaments, like you prepared for tournaments, and the game was still in a very raw phase. And a lot of these strategies that people pulled off were still like secret and hidden. It's like there was the one where Dom was the against Moscow 5, the fucking for Shyvana and fucking Urgot taking the blue buff and all that jazz.
I was the Shyvana. He was Lee Sin.
Oh, shit.
I was playing Shyvana with Exhaust, and the whole thing was you didn't have a flash. You'd play Shyvana with Exhaust in those days. And they just 2-man invaded me and gave blue buff, and now these things are like nerfed out of the game, right? Like it was actually just OP strategy. Now your buff doesn't give equal experience to a laner as it would to a jungler. But back then it was like, oh shit, this guy's level 2. A level 2 Urgot can lane pretty fucking well 1v2. So yeah, was a thing.
Even things like two things. Sorry, one thing I think the ultimate issue is that the fans are craving for what we had in the past, an open circuit where 5 buddies could play and qualify to something meaningful. These storylines, I think the grassroots are really important for every sport. I can't speak for America because that's where franchising comes from, right? But if you think Europe, if you think football, think of Leicester City. In Germany, think of Union Berlin. Like teams that qualified from the second league and had a good season, and that was the magic of the sport, basically, right? That you have the juggernauts, but you have the chance that like 5 randoms in league, for example, could play, and in the end, let's say there's a go for LOL and they beat Fnatic. Boom. Like that's what we actually want, and that's why fans that watch these, like your team, like Radisek or Los Ratones, they want the same experience. They want to have a group of 5 friends, because of course if you stream it, you have the impression they're more friendly than a pro team would be, and they want that team to succeed, to be part of the storyline, basically, right? And Riot took it away with franchising. So there's that. And I think that is basically why we're now talking about all this like streaming scrims, because we misdiagnose what's actually going on, what the fans actually want. And for the strat part, just to like give an example, right? An Atakan came out, and there's a patch every second week, so this can happen. Like GrabbZ is convinced, and we are too, that the first week, or that we were the first in bootcamp to realize that Atakan takes away resistance. Because the way his team played made no sense if they know it, because they were tanking it for 10 seconds and then going for the fight and then getting one shot. And we're like, do they know? Because we had the patch notes, but they were like, of course, very archaic, right? It's not like the polished patch notes the public gets.
Yep.
And that gave us an advantage for the entire week. Imagine change if this happens for LEC. The team should get rewarded for finding that out. Of course, this is a very black and white example. Like no one actually cares, right? Because it happened 4 weeks ago. But like the idea to like broadcast this is just so stupid. And yeah, I think if you're a person that now on Twitter says like it's a revolution and it's gonna be great for everybody to improve, please stop it. Like
it's just
I can't take it serious.
It's also just like the only thing it really, really does is it just makes easier for opponents to prep against you. It's like you show your hand and there is no like percentage of gain where you set something up, or you have something like specific where you set traps, or you want to like look for like opportunities. Like a very simple thing is like, we expect the enemy to they didn't play any scanner, so maybe we can bait out a scanner ban from them on blue side or whatever. Like this is a very basic variant of that. It makes prep work against you a lot easier if that's what you want to challenge. Like as an argument, that part also doesn't make sense because the mystery of your prep is also like a very big weapon in terms of what it should be. It's like if like you only make the prep for enemies easier. You mentioned yourself, I agree with that point as well. It's like to have gameplay footage, like just because you're in North America, if you think that you have to learn from the best North American team, like you're gonna lose. Like there's already insane gameplay footage, even from like, sure, Atakan changes the game, but there's still things that are relevant to this day from the World Championship, for example, that you can apply. So the footage is actively there. And then my final point is that I think like team scrimming is like if everything was just broadcast, bro, the vanity will die so fast. And at the same time, I think that the majority of scrims, no one's going to give a fuck about. Like if I'm going to watch this guy's toast play 100 Thieves, like I don't give a fuck, bro. Like why would I ever, like who would invest time into watching this? It's just, it doesn't make any sense. Now I'm going to watch the FlyQuest C9 thing, but only due to the vanity. Like if this is something that is reoccurring every single fucking day, I'll maybe just look at it to like prepare for the series that they play on stage. But other than that, it's like the vanity will just die so fast because the Los Ratones project, all in the open, it's very, very different. Roddy Sack, we do everything in the open, and the rawness and the focus on making more content digestible, like that is what we're selling. We're not saying like we are doing everything structured, blah blah blah. Like this is not what we're selling, and I don't think people are gonna give a damn as things kind of pan out.
Didn't even Inspired say in an interview like he doesn't know the upside they have by doing this.
Yeah,
basically, like
he's like, I don't know what the upside is.
Yeah, it's stupid to do, but I guess we do it. But
yeah, I mean that's how it's going to be in most teams. Like, I mean, the thing I'm most worried about, honestly, is like players getting canceled and shit like that. Because if you do stream zero delay, like I don't know if people know what like scrim culture is right now, but like the terms, like, I mean, it's like people when they get strong, they call themselves the guy with the little mustache. That's like a very common thing that you hear from like, you know, scrims. And then like people are calling each other like, you know, like, oh, this guy's a pedo. Oh, this guy has AIDS. This guy has cancer. Like this is just like very like common behind the scenes talk. And it's like these people are not streamers. They're not used to having their brain filter everything that they're saying, especially when you're giga focused, right? Like that's the time when people that are streamers slip up is when they're really focused on something and they just say something like, oh shit, I shouldn't have said that. Like this is not like the place for that. So like, I don't know, bro. I just think that it's going to be questionable.
What you guys said, right? It's very easy as FlyQuest because they got a best of 5 where Genji was half asleep. And I don't think FlyQuest is bad, right? But I think the level of ego they're displaying right now is a bit too high for my liking. Because like we in Fnatic right now, we are aware we are shit compared to good teams. We're 8-1 in the LEC, we don't care. We're not going to say we're a good team now. We're good comparatively to the league, but compared to the best in the world, no. But to then say we should broadcast it, and first of all, that we're in a position to teach others, while you should get better yourself, I think that's hilarious, first of all. But then again, imagine a team like BDS, like Mebdi already like got enough hate. Imagine he has to play the best team and they only scrim after it's broadcasted. And he has a bad day, and then it gets even worse. Like, if you're a bad player, you might as well just fucking retire after half a split because you will have bad scrims. Like, some teams will have bad scrims. Not everybody can win scrims. That's easy to understand, right? Mm-hmm. And if you so happen to be like now in a SK or in Rogue or something, and imagine, like, do you broadcast everything? Because, for example, we have a pre-scrim talk where players can say, I feel tired, I had shit sleep, I am sick. That's context. So if the player goes 0-5, I can as a coach say, okay, he told me he's feeling awful. Do we broadcast this as well? Yeah. Because that's context fans don't have. And they're going to be like, haha, Razork went 0-5, what a inter. Whereas we know, like, no, he's just having a bad day.
It just comes back to what you said before, which I fully agree with. It's like what happens in the team is sacred. It's like You want players to be the most unfiltered version of themselves, because you want all ideas to be in the open, no matter how bad, no matter how good, because that's the only way like they get challenged and people like move forward. And there's so many stories that never come out, because I think in most cases people understand that if they came out, you only have one perspective that isn't shaped by the entire circumstance, because teams spend hours on hours and hours on end in terms of like you work, most teams work minimum 10, 12 hours together. Everyone's in the office and so forth. Like the only very, very sad aspect that could be beneficial is that players, there's always, every year I've worked, there's always teams and players where you play against them, and they have no shame. No shame at all. And putting that on blast and on spotlight, maybe that is going to help them, but that is a potential benefit, I think, is pathetic. To the core, it hurts my soul that could be like a potential benefit, because in the end, it's like Mad Lions, I remember, it's like when they won 2 splits, like scrimming against them was a waste of time. They were so damn boosted. They were so damn bad. Like leading up to the finals, we lost against them. We went like 1-19, like we were 19-1 against them. And I don't know how they would maneuver around like a conversation like where that was broadcasted, or like maybe they would have more shame, and maybe they would just like reshape the team as a whole, because I remember that same World Championship. They just canceled scrims on us, and they just didn't practice at all because it was just better for them to not scrim. So there's like all of these.
By the way.
Yeah. Also, I wonder what the reaction is going to be from fans, because fans, like, right now when they only see stage games, if you ever hear, oh, this team is winning in scrims a lot, and then people are like, oh, scrims don't matter. Fans are so reactionary. It's like they can say scrims don't matter, whatever, but like what happens when they're actually watching the scrims and they see what it is to go like 20? How flabbergasted are they going to be that like, that a team ends up being like much better on stage or like much worse on stage? Like, how are they going to, have these conversations? Like, I just think that people are not ready. And then also, like, if you're not trying to get something out of the scrim, like scrims are actually kind of boring. Like most of the time, like I don't think that viewers will stick over time when it's like pro players that they don't like really care about anyway. Like the reason why people like watching Los Ratones is it's like, oh, it's casual, it's like boss in a scrim, like that's what's interesting. But like watching pros in a scrim, that's like very standard, and like the conversations are very similar. Like I think it will lose the novelty extremely fast, like we said earlier.
And also, I mean, many people watch for drama as well. Like, of course, like you either create drama by losing or by having personalities who you want to see lose at some point, right? And you have just these Reds, and Reds is the wrong word because they're Carrot fans. These like, some fans behave like lowlifes. It's the truth, no? And they will wait, and they will watch 20 games, and they will wait for that one game where you say something wrong, and then there's a fucking Reddit thread or Twitter thread, and they just get so much joy of you being miserable. That's also a huge component. And again, this gets compounded if you're actually playing in LEC and not in a great team. Like, you already hate your life enough, like it's not like in BDS we were having a good life, we were all depressed as fuck. Wouldn't help them to have the community laughing even more about you, or realizing that if you make a misplay, the narrative gets even stronger. Like I don't see any benefit besides creating the storylines that might be beneficial if you're the top team, but yeah, I think it's so stupid.
Which right now they aren't, right? Like now, now they're no longer the top team. So let's see, like, do we get more priorities this week? Like, do we get the change in priorities from Bwipo, right? Because that's how scrimming works. You don't just have your priorities set in stone. Every time that you like go on stage, you'll change like the way that you think, like in order to, come to better conclusions. No one no one should be hard set on their priorities for like the rest of their life, right? Even if the game hasn't changed or a patch hasn't hit, priorities shift based on like what needs to be done in the draft, and then counters come out and all this type of stuff happens. So do we get the updated priority list? Because that would be the most interesting thing.
15,000 likes.
15,000 likes.
If this video gets 20,000 likes, I will reveal Fnatic's Bottle Empires. Let's go.
I just wanted to add one thing on this conversation is, like, if the goal is to make the region better, there's far more concrete and better ways to actually like cooperate. Like you can cooperate in many ways. There's a story from last year's Worlds where the North American teams were basically like the best at lane swaps, and they could have kept that within their like sphere in terms of their teams, but there was no cooperation. So they were like giving away those strategies in scrims, and then suddenly like everyone just caught up. There was no cooperation there at all. I think there's many ways to like improve one another. If you like let's say you had that level of trust. Obviously, it's very hard because you're competing against them. But if you actively want to make the region better and you sit down with the opponent team and you can come to agreement of what you want to pursue in practice, I'm sure there's like a lot more to be gained there. Like maybe you use the practice tool for some purpose, right?
There's a 10-man practice tool now. Like that's one thing that
it is being done, not by us, but some teams use the practice tool in scrims to drill situations. At least in Europe, that's happening.
Yep, it's happening a little bit in NA too.
That's super cool. Like that's how you help. Like if FlyQuest want to help, like this is the way, you know. It's like you work together and you actively like challenge each other, and if you have the kind of idea, like if you can ask for help in the context of something that maybe you don't understand in pursuit of making the region better, like FlyQuest with the way they speak, the way Bwipo speaks, you should answer that calling, right? Like,
yeah, but also I don't even know how it's happened legally, because I'm pretty sure my contract tells me to not help other teams that are not Fnatic. So that's also another issue, right? Legally, I'm employed by a team to make the team better. So can I waste time making others better? I don't think I should.
I think before we wrap up the episode, I would like to hear what you think about current LEC and like other teams. Like which teams are strong, which teams are fake to you? Is it just Fnatic G2 at the top again? Like how do you see the league right now as somebody who's obviously currently coaching in it?
I still think that the top 5 and bottom 5 is really clear. In gameplay,
who's top 5? Who's top 5? Who's bottom 5?
Fnatic, G2, K-Corp, Giants, Koi. In no specific order. For
no
now,
vitality
top
over
5.
GX. Because you mentioned they were good in scrims and played well.
Yeah, they played.
They did just beat GX last game of the season.
Yeah, in a best of 1. Like that's the thing, right? We could be the 5th best team, but we don't know because we just won best of 1s. Like in scrims, I'm impressed by Giants and K-Corp because they have lots of rookies. G2 as well, but G2 also has, I think, more structure. But these teams play stage like in scrims, which I can really appreciate. You can tell that they really want to improve. But it also means, and that shows in their games, is that, let's say Giants, right? They have good scrims. That means they're comfortable playing from ahead. They're comfortable from playing in their positions that they're used to. If the early game then suddenly goes wrong, then they lose structure because you have to learn playing from behind, right? I think that's something that it shows clearly for K-Cup and Giants, that they don't know how to play from behind, I guess, to the degree they know from playing ahead. Which also means, though, that if you play them and they have a good early game, the game becomes infinitely harder. So I do believe still we are the strongest team and we should win it, but I don't think the gap is that big just because we stomped K-Cup in a best of 1. The team where I'm the most unsure about is Koi, MKoi, Movistar Koi. Just from the way they play the game, they play a lot together as 5, very aggressive, which goes against how I see the game personally. Which, I mean, I could be objectively wrong, I could be right, I'm not sure. They play the game the furthest away from how I would want my team to play. So it's hard for me to judge objectively how good they are. Like I can say that I could say they're better than they could 2-0, 3-0, right? Could happen. I don't expect it to happen, but it could. So I think we're the best. I think G2 and K-Corp are below that, and I think then Giants and Koi will expect for playoffs to happen. I think Heretics will get stomped, which they should with this roster. Like I'm really happy this roster exists. Like it's a great project. And you can tell that they're playing together, they're playing without fear, which is something you want to see from a roster like this, right? So I'm happy, and this is not a flame towards them. They just have very young players. And who's else there? BDS, Vitality. I mean, Vitality is kind of like Koi, just in worse. I think they play a lot through individual skill and skill expression, which I don't believe is the best way to do in best of 5s. And BDS is the other way around. I think that when they get in game, because they're a team that drills a lot, right, in scrims. So if they get into a position where they can replicate what they drilled, of course they're going to be strong. But for example, why we don't do it is because I still believe we're not consistent enough in getting to the position correctly. So it's the other way around, basically, right? So BDS can be very dangerous if you give them the positions, but if not, you will roll over them, I think. and also the top 8, right? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. If you want to flame SK and Rogue, I just did it for like 30 minutes before we got on here. You can. We can just move on.
Yeah, I mean there's no flame to be had. I think they know that they're not great. That being said, though, I know that some of them are not putting in the effort. Like I flamed BDS for my time, right? And they don't do it, and then they deserve to be last place. It just sucks for the teammates who are trying. And I hope that the players, like basically, if a player who's like working 12 hours a day listens to this, like I've been in a situation before, it does get better. At some point, it will get rewarded. So just keep working. Yeah. Focus on the things you can control yourself, and then everything will come to place at some point.
Yeah. Or it won't. I mean, that's the other life, possibility. Right? Yeah.
Back to suffering. It's part of being human.
Yeah. Then you can just suffer, and maybe you'll grow from the experience. Yamato, if you don't have anything else, I think we can call it here. Are you good?
No. I think it was a good sentiment to end it on, Work as if you want to be surrounded by people eventually that work the same way, because it eventually will happen. So it's a good sentiment. GrabbZ, you have something to add? Or should we call it there? It's been a great episode, I think.
No, the classic, thanks for the fans. It was really funny because in the beginning I got from both sides traitor DMs from G2 and Fnatic fans. But of course, all in good fun. And yeah, I mean, ultimately, we all us three depend on people caring about this game that we all love, right? Even though, of course, we sometimes have negative sentiments. So I appreciate every fan who actually puts in their time and watches this, and I hope we can give you some good moments, because right now I think life around the globe sometimes can suck. I'm not gonna start the politic talk, I'm very politic involved, but it's a different story. But I hope that if you're going through a hard time, this talk show or the games on the weekend can lighten up your day a bit.
Sounds good. All right. Well, that's going to be it for episode 24 of the Sackdown. We'll be back next week for another episode. See you there.